Hi, this is Tim. If you're watching this, you have been an early friend of Catholic Social Action and the open letter in support of Black life and our activities with the march and everything else over the last couple of months. And I'm recording this video to introduce you to the work that we have put together since the end of August and the march to think about how we want to capture this energy and keep the momentum pushing forward on a lot of the common problems that we've identified. And if you've been in this space for uh, any time at all, you know the problems that we're all talking about and we all agree on. But the lack of vocations and money declining, a real church in crisis. Um, and a church in crisis when it comes to its engagement with politics and political and public life as well. Um, and we've got a few details here that you can see in the presentation later, right? But the first thing to remember is that God is in control. It's not all up to us, thank God, and that we need to pray and humble ourselves and go to confession and repent. Um, but after that, we also need to keep doing it, and we need to get to work on doing our best to fix it, like Pope Francis has called us to do. So, you know, it's worth though elaborating why we do something new. We can go faster starting a new thing, and avoid a little bit of the baggage, but also it's really fun, and we're having a blast doing it and working with all of you. So I think that's a pretty good reason just in and of itself. This is something born out of friendship, which is something Brandon McGinley and other folks like to talk about a lot. um, and who am I? Some of you guys know me very well, but others of you probably not at all. My name's Tim Wainwright. I've uh, you know been around here in a quieter perspective for a little bit, but I've now found myself the quote unquote executive director of this little band called Catholic Social Action. Um, and you can see that's me with the beautiful redheaded family there. And I am joined by Jake Hyman in operations. He's part of the U.S. Air Force, and John Homan, who's an artistic director for us, who's a graphic designer and teacher out of Ohio. So these are a couple of names that you may have seen uh, on Twitter, perhaps under some pseudonyms as we got the whole project together. But and as you know, there were quite a few of us involved in putting that project together. But the three of us have been sort of uh, collectively voted into sort of de-anonymizing and putting our names to this thing so we can really try and take it legit. So I'm happy to do that and really excited about the opportunity. So if now's our first time meeting, well, nice to meet you and looking forward to spending more time. So here's where we were, right? We started in February with engaging with our loose networks of Twitter and whoever roped you in somehow, right? And the outpour of feeling that came from George Floyd's death and all of these other incidents that have been taking place, of course, for so long, caused us all to want to just do something about it, right? So we wrote the letter and did the march. But that, we hope, was just the beginning. And since then, we've just been thinking about what we can do next. So to coin that vision, I've written it up as strategic Catholicism in a popular register. So what does that mean, right? In the new encyclical that just came out for Fratelli Tutti, Pope Francis talks about the rise of both populism, which he would characterize in its negative form, and contrast it with what he describes popular politics, as in rule, for the common good, specifically for everybody, for the people. And that sort of popular energy is one of the biggest things that we think is currently missing from Catholic political engagement and engagement with public life. Um, you know, it's we need to stand up with our own sort of vigorous popular energy and not become let ourselves put our faith in the back seat to Trumpism or the sort of other outlets on the political spectrum. Um, and interestingly, there's some data from Pew and others that says that many of the folks who feel most alienated from the ruling class or the neoliberals or whatever you want to call them don't map perfectly onto a sort of traditional American left-right divide. Um, so we want to capture that energy, and we want to uh, do that by communicating 100% of Catholic social teaching, not just our pet issue, and then turning a blind eye when one group or other, left or right, only wants to advocate for a little piece of it. There is room for a lay force in Catholic political engagement that does advocate for all of Catholic social teaching. Um, we've got the USCCB and the formal hierarchical affiliates of the church in this country, and they do, I mean, there are bishops, right? They clearly communicate, if you read Faithful Conscience and Informing Citizenship, that the Catholic social doctrine is a seamless garment, and that's why they don't come out and endorse candidates as the bishops, because there is no clear electoral outlet for the a politics that really subscribes to Catholic social doctrine in its entirety. So, you know, the lay organizations that are out there tend to filter that through. I mean, you've got two big ones. That you've got Catholic Vote, which must have got that domain name super early and only endorses Republicans and come out hard for Trump. And you've got sort of the nuns on the bus, who come out for Nancy Pelosi, right? And everyone sort of just muddles along with that, because what else is there to do? Well, answering that question is what we're trying to do here. So we're advocating for all of Catholic social teaching, and we're doing it in a popular register. So we're trying to get a mass movement off the ground, and we are trying to do it by communicating in the way that fits the times, right? And I'm using the word register for that to mean to try and describe the sort of the mood of too much of Catholic political engagement, right? And I'm trying to capture that here in these pictures of logos. There's nothing, judging by these little graphics, that separates or makes the Catholic news service distinctive from the Episcopal news service. There's no visceral feeling or separation there. They probably came out of the same graphic design agency or what have you. And too much of our politics and our cultural engagement has just ceded ground and been sublimated into the sort of dominant capitalist structure of Western life. What Pope Francis describes as an empire of money. And it all just sort of looks like this, right? So here are some pictures to contrast with from the march, right? Traditional Catholic forms in the service of exactly what Pope Francis and the bishops called for, which is support for nonviolent protest in solidarity with Black lives in the United States, without descending into violence, right? And we did it distinctively as Catholics, and a lot of us as young Catholics, and we were welcomed in this environment, right? And we communicated the gospel in this environment with our own identity, and not just carrying signs that said Black Lives Matter, right? And that's the sort of spirit that we want to take into the public square. But we also need to be strategic about it. There's not much to say here other than that we view a strategic approach as part of our DNA. And so if you've seen any of the work we're doing on the Catholic advocacy map, just as an example, that's the screenshot you see here. There was not a one-stop shop database or single source of truth online that would help us when we were asking ourselves just in conversation, hey, what are we going to do next? There was not one clear place that laid out a framework of, hey, all of the issues that the church concerns herself with. Well, here's all the organizations working on each of them, and the notable people and what their activities are up to, and how you can get involved in these different spots. So we decided to, as we were building out our mission and our vision, that a sensible next project was to create that database. So that's something we're working on now and making little announcements about on our social media platforms, but the work is almost done to release a first version of it, and we're looking forward to showing you an example of it soon. We've got to be strategic. And so here's how we're going to do it, right? This is the meat of this, guys. So we're incorporating Catholic Social Action as a 501c3 and putting a board together. You can see a screenshot here of some names of folks who have at least told me that they're in to serve on the executive board, and hopefully watching this video, Liz, Jake, David, Father Schrenk, seals the deal here. And if any other of you watching are interested in serving on either the executive board, which would require a little bit more activity, just with some of the rules around nonprofit governance, or we have an advisory board in which you could become very similar to the signatory that you were on the March for Black Life open letter. We would love your support in that endeavor. So you can see our updated website here, and we have a number of great projects in the pipeline that I'm going to get into right now. So the first of which would be sponsorship of a website called tradiste.com. And these guys who run this website were our earliest supporters, and their names aren't on the About Us page because they write under pseudonyms for now, but they are part of our core team of 5 volunteers, and we've basically pretty much joined forces right now. And we might consider this outlet that they write in consultation with sympathetic priests and religious as the chaplaincy of our overall series of projects. So Tradiste publishes an online repository and library of resources that present the history and historic doctrine of the popes and encyclicals and the church to a general lay audience in really accessible language. And they run a great podcast where they have guests on, everyone from Catholic architects to Brian Carroll of the American Solidarity Party, and they just do really good work at providing a healthy outlet for folks who are looking to rediscover more of the rootedness of the church history, without sending them onto some crazy rabbit trail towards thinking we need to revive the Crusades or something wild. So we want to scale up those publishing efforts and really make this name and this approach to Catholic politics, which recognizes the importance of history, but especially its continuity and being 110% loyal to Pope Francis, and the current hierarchical regime is very important to us. But just outside of the theory, just as important is the praxis. And the one consistency I've seen when talking to other Catholic individuals is this feeling of powerlessness in the face of massive forces outside of our control, and a feeling of, where do I even start to engage? And so a new website called the Church Resiliency Initiative will aim to answer that question and to provide resources dedicated to making our individual Catholics and their families, as well as their parishes and dioceses, more resilient, to help them weather the storms that are coming. They are really coming. So whether that's from taking a very, very realistic view on climate change and working with partners like Goodlands and the Catholic Climate Initiative to identify parishes that are going to be in super high risk areas due to climate change, and working to do food security initiatives there and providing sort of free classes, to going back to the money gap we identified in our problem slide. We just know from being Americans at an aggregate level, not judging anyone's individual situations or choices, that as Americans we tend to be pretty wealthy, but as Catholics we tend to give a lot less of our treasure to the church in the collection plates, and that's been documented fairly well. And so, you know, at the same time that we hear from a lot of folks that we are feeling pinched, feeling stretched. The daily costs of life and of child rearing and of family life are, becoming prohibitive for many. And so understanding how we can engage with personal finance topics and ethical investing and saving, and to make our own families more resilient, is going to be super important. So this website will produce blogs, sort of traditional essay type content, as well as free classes, and really aim to not have a profit-based model, but just be subsidized by the fundraising I do with our 501c3, with a mission of publishing the best content possible and having it diffused as widely as possible, because it's just mission driven. So that, is a bit of the planned content wing for now, but here we really get into the political engagement, which I think is our biggest area of potential to make a difference, because it's such an underserved area right now when it comes to consistent engagement that supports all of Catholic social doctrine. So we've used for these initiatives, the brand of solidarity, as Pope Francis has recommended to us. And so we've formed something called the Solidarity Policy Collective, which will be a sort of think tank and policy shop that helps, that's not, officially branded as Catholic, so that we can, work with, as Pope Francis said, all those of goodwill who might be sort of fellow travelers with us along the way, but who publish and advocate for a public policy perspective, sort of coordinating those who are doing the wonk work to give teeth to how Catholic social teaching, and policies inspired by those ideas might be implemented in today's political climate. And so you can see some examples here, screen grabs for things we might do, like public polling and, simulation exercises, political debates, white papers, that traditional think tank sort of engagement. But it's no good having the ideas, and you can have the best written proposal and idea for fixing the welfare state or fighting climate change. But we all know that it doesn't matter if the politicians don't listen. And to make the politicians listen, you can't just have a 501c3. You need to create something called a 501c4, which can do advocacy and, no, this is a dirty word, but lobbying work. So we've created something called the Solidarity Lobby. And this is going to be a cross-party initiative that can do things like track all federal and state legislation that's relevant to the areas of concern, related to our social doctrine and belief. And we can also do those ACLU and Heritage and all the other big players type things when it comes to doing scorecards on how our representatives vote. And hey, do you want to know how often your congressman voted in line with all of the public policy positions that the church has issued a position on over the years? Well, here's their score. Here's how they've done. Here are the facts. And then we can flip those facts into advocacy campaigns. This is a screenshot of one I've written up as a test. You can actually go to our website right now, put in your address, figure out who your local representatives are, and send them an email right now telling them to exert maximum pressure in their role as congresspeople and members of whatever political party they're a part of, to get those in charge to renew the New START treaty that reduced the number of ICBMs between Russia and the US. That's live today, and we've got big plans for it. We want to take the fight, and advocate for a mass politics, right? And we need a 501c4 affiliate to do that. But that's not all we need, because ultimately, we need, Pope Francis has described Catholic politics as one of the most noble endeavors you can participate in when you are seeking to build the common good. And so if we can't get those currently in power to support the common good through their actions, then we are going to have to recruit and run candidates who will. Um, that is what we're going to do if we want to advocate for the social doctrine of the church, for the common good of our common life together. And so we're forming something called the Solidarity Pact to do it, right? And the overall strategy here, guys, is to be smart about this and to be Catholics first and to be folks who follow Catholic social doctrine first and partisans of whatever sort second. All a political party is just a mechanism for wielding power. That is all it's become in the United States. And whatever policies that those political parties have championed over the years have ranged all over the ideological spectrum. So, you can see a map here of every district, or every county in the United States, and you can see it mapped out by religious strongholds. Blue is Catholic. There's a lot of blue out there, and we want to turn that into a political force and give Catholics a guide to, hey, where are you in your county, in your municipality? Who's in charge? If you live in a solidly blue county, it's going to make way more sense for you to get involved with the local Democratic Party and the local DSA and start working with an organization like Democrats for Life of America than it's going to be to like for you to start a local Republican Party chapter or something who may be better occasionally on the pro-life issue in some regards, but then fail on it in other regards, right? We've got to fight strategically on this. And so this pack is going to put together a calculus for getting points on the board. Because if fighting is fun, right? Like engaging in this for and advocating for the common good, for the good of the church, is the right thing to do. And so we're going to do it. It's going to be fun. So here's a little bit of our goals, right? There's a lot of text on here, but I just want you guys to know broadly. I'm not going to ask you to read all of this right now, but we have created a 10-year vision with objectives that have a trackable metric attached to each one of the subsidiaries that I just described to you. This is, I think, a massively underserved force out here, and no matter what our chances of success, the just war theory doesn't apply to engaging in electoral politics. So whether you think our odds of success are great or slim, it doesn't matter. Pope Francis and the traditional teaching of the church is that we get involved and advocate for these things because it's the right thing to do. And there are people out there who are hurting. So, let me just call out one metric, right? We make fun of the Libertarian Party a lot because, why wouldn't you? But they have 600,000 formal registered members. And they try to be an alternate party, which is not what we are advocating for here. We're advocating for something like a coalitional organization that works across party lines to advance a very specific agenda and makes sure that that agenda is being pursued ideally in every single party or electoral structure that we have in front of us. Can you imagine if we had hundreds of thousands of individual member donors working with us on advocacy and making small dollar donations to endorse candidates and score them according to meeting these objectives, and created a committee network in local areas to work and advance with solidarity and labor organizing and all of these things? That's the goal, and you can read more about these later on. So how do we get there? So here's what we're going to do over the next 12 months, right? Everything you've seen so far, but from the work we did with you on the March to the websites I've just described here, was done by me and our volunteers on a part-time volunteer capacity and a few $100s worth of our own money. And so I am currently the executive volunteer, and I am all in with CSA. I am transitioning to work on this full time because of my, for my sins in the corporate world. I have enough saved up to be able to make this transition and work on CSA full time without taking a salary. So I am making a significant personal investment in this project because I believe in it. I believe it's the right thing to do. And we, as a structure, are going to take a policy of should we ever be fortunate enough, because it means there's a lot of work we need to move some of our volunteers into formal staff positions, to have a living wage as advocated by the church, but also no more than that. So I hope to never take a salary from CSA, but if any of us do, we're going to make all of this information public on the website. We're not going to bury our tax filings in some corner of the website and make you download them. We are going to be the most fiscally transparent Catholic organization on the planet, bar none. And I will be, at the very least, if I can't get a live feed of our bank account and the expenditures we make on the website, I will be posting a screenshot of our Fresh Works or TurboTax or whatever it is every day, so you guys know exactly where every dollar is going. But what I'm trying to say is it's not going to me, and it's not going to our conference that we're going to put together. We are going to be dollar for dollar the most scrappy, leanest organization making these fights out there right now. And when you do that, and when you don't care too much about lining your own pockets, it's possible to, especially if you know technology, punch very, very, very far above your weight. And so that being said, in order to hit these goals, which are crazy ambitious, as I know, we're going to need to get to, I would say, 100K a year to pay for the technology and the manpower, or woman power, sorry, ladies, to get people to be able to invest the time to do all of this advocacy work. So my goal for the next 12 months is to get us up to about 100K a year. Now, if I started playing the wealthy donor network, we could get that very, very quickly. That's not a large sum of money in the nonprofit industrial complex terms. But we're also committed to doing this without taking foundation money or chasing after Catholic millionaires or pursuing government grants and all of this stuff that keeps traditional NGOs and organizations captive to getting all of their funding, or a majority of their funding, from just a handful of sources. We are going to fundraise the small dollar route, which means that our incentives will be aligned to our mission, because our mission is to get as many Catholics on board as possible with the sorts of activities that we're asking them to complete and making available to them as part of our nonprofit projects. So in order to catch up, though, and play on the same ground as the big dollar folks, we need to do a lot of work. So here's the plan for the next year. As executive director, traditionally, my role would be a lot of fundraising stuff. I have some sales and marketing. That's a corporate background I come from. So here's a little bit about how we're going to get there, guys. So our average dollar donation is $5 a month through platforms like Patreon. And so if we're going to get to an initial sort of 100K revenue stream by, let's say a year from now, we're going to need about 1,600 early supporters who sign on and make us part of their philanthropic giving, let's say. So it's pretty hard to get people to give even that amount of money. Everyone's busy, everyone's stretched thin. So let's say 1 out of every 10 people I ask to just listen to this video you're watching now, listen to it. And let's say for every 4 people who listen to this pitch, who watch this video that you're watching now, let's say 1 agrees to donate at that level, then I need to get like almost 7,000 people to hear me out on this in order to get to that level of support. Does that math make sense? It sounds pretty hard, right? Is it possible? Well, yes, actually. Number one, I think I'm being very conservative with that math. But even so, it's because of technology, it's possible for me to scale the amount of times we're asking people to hear us out uh, in a way that's just not possible if we were going door to door or writing snail mail campaigns. Um, and also, the numbers I just laid out for you there assume that I, by myself, am the only person who ever does any outreach on behalf of this project, and that there is zero snowball or viral or network effect or whatever you want to call it. So I think those are pretty conservative assumptions. But even if we use those conservative assumptions based on a traditional sort of fundraising approach of trying to get out there in front of people with text, emails, tweets, and blah blah blah, a couple of hundred interactions per day, I think we can get to this level comfortably in 2021. So that's how we're going forward. And obviously, if you feel compelled to join us, there's a number of asks that I'm going to have, and this is a preview of what will become a more public facing presentation. But obviously, this video I'm just sending to a few of our core group. But so number one, I mean, you guys can give me feedback on this proposed project and what you think of it, and whether you'd like to continue to be involved with things like the March for Black Life and the open letter and these sorts of activities that we've outlined here in this presentation. And there's a million ways to do it. We're looking to fill seats on our executive board. We're looking to fill an unlimited number of, let's say, informal friends on our advisory board. When you can have your name on the website, and we'll probably host a couple of online meetups, a few times a year to get your feedback and hear from you. And then, obviously, I'm happy to speak to you guys anytime, of course. And then, the sky's the limit. There's a million things that we need to do. We ask for your prayer, and if any of you want to support this mission financially, I'm happy to partner with you and talk through any of this in more detail. But this is the mission, guys. So sorry that went super long, but it is what it is. This is what we're doing. I'm fired up. I think this is just, I don't see anything else that we should be doing, like that we can be doing. I mean, this is what the Pope is telling us to do, right? So this is what I'm going to do. Whether that ends up me being tilting at windmills, or we make a mass movement happen here, remains to be seen. But it's been a blast working with all of you so far. And again, I appreciate you giving me any feedback on this that you care to offer. So I am with this awesome quote from Fratelli Tutti. I'm sure we're all sort of in the middle of it. I haven't finished it yet, but I just thought that it was amazing having worked with you guys and the team for developing this theme of solidarity and justice over the last couple of months, for the Holy Father to drop this encyclical on us right now and basically say, what you need to be doing, faithful, is advocate for a subsidiarity and common good inspired Catholic social democrat politics through the mass popular means that you have available to you, and fight against the empire of mammon. He said, go do it. And so we are just excited to develop the spirit of fraternity and solidarity with all of you. And so thanks. I'm going to wrap it here. Again, this is Tim. Thanks for watching this. Please give me your feedback, and I'm going to be bugging you all to try and reach out and talk to me on the phone and spend some more time together. So thanks. Bye-bye.